is the size of the universe. So you have to read some of the sentences 2-3 times to really extract all the juice from what he's saying. He's a scientific philosopher, so he's examined the whole lot. And he's broken down the mathematics and the science of evolution. So the evolutionists are wrong. That's not how it happened. The most plausible explanation is a mind behind the creation of the universe 13.8 billion years ago and of life on Earth 4 billion years ago. That's point one. On the other side, the biblical realists are going to find out that they are wrong too. Because the Bible, as some of us know, is a highly edited book, highly selectively edited book, where ancient stories were melded into this one God story. So have you ever noticed how in the Old Testament the God behaves like an adolescent who's been denied his first beer? And he gets really shitty and destroys entire worlds and nations, and nothing to do with it. These are stories from other sources that have been brought together, stuck into this one book, and instead of attributing that behaviour to the actual players involved, this is just ancient history, Assyria, Babylonia and the rest of it, they've been melded into this one God theory. And so it's been burdened with the lunatic behaviour of other creatures, beings, people. That's why the biblical realists, literalists, are going to tear their party dresses and run around in circles, because it will be proven that they are wrong. And there are books on that too. Escaping Eden by Paul Wallace. I think it's Paul, W-A-L-L-I-S, if you want to read that one. He's a Victorian he's in Victoria. He's an Australian guy. And his book examines, because he used to be an Anglican priest and a specialist on the Bible and a translator from first sources, from original sources about what it was all about. And what he's discovered, and what he's discovered by his analysis of it, is that the biblical literalists are flat wrong. But the good news is, so are the evolutionists. So what that means is, keep your mind open. The one thing you can do that is for certain, there is a being out there, a pure love, transcendental, is outside space, energy, matter and time. That's what transcendent means. The Big Bang happened, we know that. But it didn't happen on its own. So whatever made it happen had to be outside of space, energy, matter and time, because space, energy, matter and time did not exist prior to the Big Bang. That makes sense. The other thing that is a conclusion out of this book is that it's a theistic, and I'm getting the definition here, get complicated. It's a theistic model, meaning that this source, this universal, call it God, call it whatever, he doesn't care. He doesn't care if you call it she. It's okay. But this source is actively involved in our lives on a daily basis. It's not some distant God that started the system off and just, away you go. And the evidence, once again, the evidence is there. I'm not here proselytizing for Christianity or anything. All I'm saying is read. If you can read, nothing that you find out in the future will shock you. You'll go, wow, that makes sense. Does that make sense? So there's two books. Escaping Eden is one. The Return of the God Hypothesis is the other. And you'll find out that a lot of what you're being taught is wrong by accident, because people don't know, but it's also wrong by design, because what the powers that be want to do is to remove God from the centre of our lives. Because if you remove God from the centre of your life, nothing else matters or makes sense. Does that make sense? That's what they've been hammering for decades and decades and decades and decades and decades. But as I said, if you can read and you start reading those books, you can ease yourself into a fuller understanding of life on Earth, which is profoundly exciting and different and mind-boggling. That's why I said if I told you everything I knew now, you would all lock me up and say bye. But if you can read, you'll make up your own mind. And that's all we want here. We're not looking for people to march in lockstep with everybody else. Does that make sense? You know, a free people is characterised by the fact that they are difficult to control and manage, because they know what they want to know, they live the way they want to live, and that's the way it should be. Nobody should want to be a politician, because it'd be the most difficult job on the planet. Because once you are free, once you understand your sovereign rights, and if you live according to those, you live your life your way without impinging on the rights of others, that's what a free people is, and that's bloody difficult to control, and that's exactly what we want.
Yep.
We want a people that is difficult to control.
Yep.
We want you to be free and live your life your way. That makes sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yep.
Guys, it's almost 3. We've got 7 people here that want to ask a question. Can we just limit that off there? If Ricardo and Tamara are happy with that.
Yeah. Yep, cool. Yep.
I want to talk about Aboriginal first and how ab comes from abnormal and it's not original. We're the original people here. We are not abnormal original people. The last 2 years, everybody's been feeling what the originals have been going through for the last 235 plus years.
Yep.
What are you doing to rectify this? Don't you think the original sin on this needs to be addressed first? And do you align with the original sovereigns?
Okay, let me just do a small correction. Aboriginal it's Latin. Ab means from the originals. What it's saying about you, you are the originals. Whoever said ab comes from abnormal is a half-educated dunce that is actually pissing you off for no reason. And I'm being intentionally rude because I'm sick of hearing this. There's nothing more dangerous than the half-educated individual. Ab is from Latin meaning from the original. You are the originals. It's not an insult. It is an accurate descriptor of the people who are here first. Secondly, the current crop of blacks weren't the first ones here.
Nope.
That's a second point that nobody wants to
Well, I
recognise.
actually
They
have
got
to
rid of the
make a
first
really
lot of blacks.
bossy
It doesn't matter
announcement.
though. That's all history. Just so we're clear on that. Next, what are we doing about it? We are working assiduously with we're trying to get a hold of the real tribal leaders, not the corporate blacks, because the corporate blacks are as bad as the corporate whites.
Yep.
$33 billion a year, $33.8 billion a year goes into the Aboriginal industry, and it is an industry. And Jackie in the Nulla Nulla doesn't see a cent of it. It's going everywhere except to the benefit of the First Nations people in Australia. That really pisses me off. And it should piss you off because it's coming out of your pockets. So we are working with David Cole up north in Northern Territory. He's having a meeting. I was invited to attend this meeting, and then a few people were cranky and said, why did he come into this meeting? So I'm not going. That's fine. I don't care.
Yep.
But here's the point. We have to do this mob by mob by mob. I'm not interested in some corporate solution
This is a nice
because what
coffee.
is good for one mob in WA is different to another mob in Queensland, and we've got to do this slowly and patiently and with wisdom because you're dead right. What we have been feeling over the last little while is what they've been feeling for a long time.
Yep.
And it doesn't feel good, does it? Right. So now we have what is required in life, which is a common, not a common theology or a common ideology, but a common experience. Because now people go, hang on a minute, we've got to do the right thing by our First Nations people. Now, having said that, that doesn't mean the white people are going to sit under the blacks and say and start, praising you either. Here's the way I like to start solving a complex problem. And we did this with Australia One, because we've got an entire country to save. Now, how do you do that? Start with the end state. So we defined our end state for A1. And then we figure out what the mission is and the method. Now, same with this. This is a subset of that. So what do we do with the black and white issue in Australia? Here's our end state. One people, one country, one flag.
Yep. Yep.
One mob. Now, how we get there is going to take patience and wisdom that has never been found on this planet yet in terms of this issue, because nobody's fixed it. We are going to be the first nation in the world to find a genuine, harmonious peace between the Aboriginals, the first or the second, and those that came later, because we are one people, one country, one flag. When we do that, they will never again be able to divide us. That's the key thing.
Yep.
Now, if you have a look at all these flags, I love all the flags. It's fantastic. We've got the red flags, the blue flags, with the Aboriginal flag. We've got the Eureka flags and the rest of it. Now, that's our past. Now, the corporate black flag, which is equally divisive. Does that make sense? They're all divisive. Now, when you look at a rally in the United States, and they are running their flags, what do you see?
One flag.
One flag, red, white and blue, stars and stripes, old glory. That's all you see for acres and acres and acres. And what do we see? We see people who are proud of their past, and that's great. I've got an Italian background. I got rid of my Italian citizenship. When Australia plays Italy in the football, I know who I want to win. And that's the ruse. It's real simple. You cannot be a slave to two masters, folks. See, I know Australia will have come to age politically when we roll our flag up, whatever that flag is. And if you want to have a competition where every school kid in the country
He hasn't rolled
wants
his
to design a
up.
flag,
He's
then do it.
continuously bringing up
The
his
flag
ethnic
itself
background.
is important, but it's just a symbol. The only piece of advice I'd give would be, don't try to mash up 14 different flags from the past like the South Africans did. Let's have something brand new and ours. And when we have a rally, all we see is this one flag. Black and white makes no difference. We all feel the same because this is our country. This country has given us everything. Everything that is good in our life, our education, our freedom, our love of liberty. We have To quote General Sir John Monash, we have extracted from this country a massive debt, and we must do everything to repay that debt, to make sure that we create the best country for our kids. Does that make sense? That's it. So, long answer to a short question. One people, one country, one flag.
And it's called I am, you are, we are Australians.
Would you like that for your new national anthem, that song?
Got it. I
Because
love
they
that
all
song.
virtue signal about their minority backgrounds.
Yeah, you got it.
If they thought they're Australian, you wouldn't know Ricardo was Italian.
Hi everyone, my name is Veronica. I'm from Seven Hills, which is near Blacktown, New South Wales. This question is for Ricardo, if you can answer it. I'm really curious about when the government is actually dissolved. What's going to happen? I mean, are they going to be allowed to take paperwork, or somebody's going to go in and prevent them from taking paperwork? What happens after that? Who is going to be ruling temporarily until we've got new government? How does it work?
Yeah, that's a good question. What happens now, if the Governor General determines that the Parliament has been operating unconstitutionally, as you know, he's required to dissolve it. Now, dissolving it is nothing unprecedented about that. The Governor General dissolves Parliament immediately before every election. Once the writs are issued, the Parliament is dissolved. So there is nobody governing the country. We go into what's called a caretaker mode, which I'm sure you're familiar with. And in that caretaker mode, no new policies or decisions are taken. The country just bubbles along with exactly the policies it had previously. Now, removal of government documents, and I can understand your concern, the shredders will be working overtime, but the good news is everything that was written is still there. It can still be recovered through forensic analysis of hardware. So they can't get away with it. So anybody does that, what they're doing is they're adding to their charge sheet, because this is now treason and potentially sedition, or definitely sedition and potentially treason. And so that will happen. But they're dissolved, they get out, nothing can be touched. If it is touched, they will be caught. Now, after this period of this 30 days, 3 months, that the Governor General has appointed this Executive Council. They have 3 months, and all they can do is do what he requires them to do, which we've said before, get rid of all the COVID nonsense and clean up the electoral system so we can have a free and fair election. And then once the free and fair election is in, you get to have your say. Now, that was from a Department of Defence manual called Law of War. And if you go back to the Q post and read what looked like a date, and it's now a paragraph, you go, that makes sense. And there's this Kiwi who's gone through this. This guy has a brain the size of Jupiter. And he's actually mapped the entire thing, so it's not a conspiracy, it's real and it's there. This is the white hats. These are the formal white hats, okay? These are the really good guys that are saving the planet beyond the understanding that we have. A lot of people started hanging off that and pretending that they were QAnons and the rest of it. They're just people with opinions. There's very few white hats as such. When we refer to the white hats, we're talking about the global movement led by this mob, who are actually coordinating an international effort against this globalist cabal which has been running the planet since forever. And depending on how far back in history you want to go, it either goes back to Warshop in the 18th century or it goes back to, if you wish. But for the purposes of this, that's the quick potted history. For the purposes of this, the white hats have a plan and they're executing that plan. You don't ring up the white hats, they ring up you. All right? It's as simple as that. They ring you. If you're useful, they'll contact you and say, over here. And if you don't hear from them, I don't want to talk to you. You can't volunteer. Send me to the white hats. It doesn't work that way. Okay? So just keep doing whatever you're doing. If you're doing energy healing, then do it. And if you become so phenomenally powerful and useful, then you might get the call. But you might not. Don't sweat it. It's not about being a white hat. It's about just, as Tamara said, do what you got to do the way you got to do it, that only you can do it. Because each one of you is different. Every gift you've been given, every burden you have, and every skill you've learned is there to help you become something else.
Yeah.
Okay, so just do that. But that's the white hats. All we're doing here is this. We're doing what we can do within our modest capability, which is to turn up and say enough. And the more we do this, the more people join us, and we get millions turning up. Eventually, it will fold. The Governor General will dissolve the Parliament, or there might be some other alternatives, because every plan can either head this way or this way depending on decisions that people make. Does that make sense? So none of us right now can say exactly what the next step will be. All we can do is anticipate a series of possible futures and then be poised to adapt to that possible future regardless what happens. Okay?
There's a guy by the name of Buckminster Fuller, and Bucky used to say, get the vision, hold the vision, and the universe will take you on the journey. So I'm just saying to people, just anything negative, just do not do TV, don't listen, nothing. Hold the vision of the outcome that you want. And if we all do that, it's like we will then be taken on that journey to then experience that outcome.
If anybody thinks that sounds too woo-woo,
Oh, I am. I'm a woo-woo. My grandson goes, my grandmother's weird. You know?
if you think that's woo-woo, did you know that the observing of an experiment at quantum mechanical level affects the outcome of that experiment? Show of hands who understands that concept. See, I knew we had a good crowd. This is the simplest evidence of intention. Just the observer affects the result. The observer affects the result. How cool is that? The observer affects the result.
Yep.
Same thing. So it's not so woo-woo after all.
Yep. And anything negative, do you know what you're saying? My big one. Thanks for sharing. Cancel, and replace it with a positive. You get negative in your head. Thanks for sharing. Cancel, replace it with a positive.
So thank you so much for answering. I just thought I'd let you know also there was a man that stood up here today, I think it's Dave, that talked about the Rockhampton possible tornado. And I work with the Key to Coherence, which is all about bringing coherence and obviously what you're saying and intention. And we sat with the Key, we put a quantum field around Rockhampton, and it was a good result, I would say.
Yep. I worked with the with kahunas in Hawaii, and I went over and back for a year and studied with them, and just learned the power of our minds. And the Hawaiians had it. They had it. So I'm with you, girlfriend. Yep.
Hi, I'm Rocco from Geelong. Fifth trip. It's a fifth trip up here with a group of ladies. We've been travelling since the 30th of January. I think we left Melbourne after you spoke in Carlton.
Wow.
So I've been following Ricardo and your vision for this country for quite some time. Last week in Melbourne, we went to a meeting with a group of people like this, sort of white hat people, and it was just a random meeting. It was about asset protection. After the meeting, just started talking to people because we'd never been there before, just randoms. We mentioned we were coming back up here, and whoever we're talking to said, "Why are you doing that?" We said, "Because we're trying to do what we can do." Anyway, the subject went on to you, Ricardo, and you keep you're a big man, and you say you can ask you anything. So I want to ask you this, okay? So this may sound controversial, but it's just coming from someone who threw something at us, and it sort of throws your head in a bit. So I thought, who better than to ask the man himself? Okay? Okay, so started talking about you and the unity flag, and you've come up with this design. It's got blue with yellow stars. Then they started showing us all these different countries that have had their flags that have now changed, and they're all blue with yellow stars. And apparently that's a sign of the bad people taking over that country, and that's their badge of honour when they rebadge the country with the yellow and blue. Apparently, so we haven't been here for 2 weeks, but it must have been at one of these events where you handed out a heap of blue flags with yellow stars. Is that right? I don't.
Yeah, keep going.
Okay. So,
It's all right, I've got an answer, but go on.
No, that's okay. So this went on, and then apparently you wear some cross, a Jesuit cross thing, and all this stuff, and we've got no idea what they're talking about. Yep. Yep. So anyway, so basically trying to tell us that we're on the wrong tram by keeping on going where you're going, and so we walk away thinking, shit, if we've been thinking that Ricardo is someone who's sort of we've been following and hoping that's one way out, and now he's really a bad guy in disguise. Well, we're all stuffed. Like, why carry on? Let's just give up now.
That's a logical. No, I got no problem with the question, and your conclusion is exactly right. If I am a bad man, then yeah, we're stuffed. I get it. Okay, second part first. Come here, please. Have a look at that. That was a gift from my wife. It is just a normal cross that she bought. In the centre is a small copper coin from the Middle East, from Jerusalem at the time of Christ. It's like a 1 cent coin. It was called a mite. Right, it's literally a 1 cent coin, copper coin. Now, the purpose of the mite is a biblical story where Christ was standing by the temple with some of his disciples. Yeah, take a picture, spread it around, it's okay. And watching people putting money in the donation bucket, let's say. And this old woman walked up and she put a mite into the tray and moved on. And some of the disciples said, well, she didn't give very much, did she? And I cry every time I say this, so forgive me if I get emotional. And he said, no, she gave more than everybody else because she had less to give. So the widow's mite in that cross is a daily reminder,
but it's been slightly
keep
different.
giving everything
And you
you've
will
got.
find he
Everything.
does
She
that.
gave everything. She gave more when she had less to give. I've got lots to give, so I've got a big debt to pay. Does that make sense? So that's why my wife gave me the cross. It's not I wouldn't even know a Masonic cross I wouldn't have a clue. So that's just the widow's mite. On the other question, on the flag that I designed. In 1992, I was parachuting down at Naval Air Station Nowra. We were jumping squares, and I dislocated my shoulder, popped out under canopy, which means I only had one arm to steer the canopy with. It's like having a plane that's going to crash. Luckily, no big deal, but I popped my shoulder. I couldn't continue the para series because it was damaged. So I started designing new Australian flags because I knew at some point in the future we would have to grow up and we needed a new flag. So I just started designing flags. That flag you see, the blue one with the yellow stars, is one of about 30 different flags. And I started with, let's mix the Aboriginal colours with the Australian colours, and that turned into a bugger's muddle. So it's one of 30. Now, Dave, where's Dave? Dave Graham. Weeks ago, we were chatting. We were talking about this one country, one people, one country, one flag. And he said, he agreed with that. He liked that. He said, do you have one? And I just went, that'll do. Because it's a nice colour. Blue and yellow used to be the Australian national colours. I don't know if you know that. Yep, there you go. A little bit of knowledge. And so I just printed that one out and I said, there you go. It's a transitional flag. It's a unity flag. It's something to grab onto while we get rid of all these other things when people decide to put them down. The one after that on my laptop, and I can show if you like. In fact, I want you to come over and show it so you personally have seen the 30 odd flags that I started designing 30 years ago because I knew this day would come. But we needed one, and it could have been green and gold. And you'll see there's dozens and dozens of different flags. So that's why. Now, if it is blue and gold, and if blue and gold is a Masonic symbol or if it's the globalist symbol, I don't care. Pick another flag. It's not the point. But I understand why you're worried. And here's what I suggest you do. Turn your back on me on A1 immediately. Walk away.
For the country.
And then if we are worthy of you, then come back. That way at least you've taken, and this is what all of us have to do every day of the week.
Yep.
You look at the information on the best estimate, on the balance of probabilities. What is your best estimate? I think is a crook. Then please walk away. That way you can say, you know what, I walked away from him because I think he's a crook. And if down the track, A1, you believe A1 is actually the good gear, then join us again. But don't sit there worrying.
Yeah.
It's like leaning back on a chair, when you're leaning back and you just lose your... That's not a good place to be. Get all four legs of the chair and say, be solid. You'll be solidly right or solidly wrong, but forget the wavering bit. Don't worry about it. But anyway, come down after this, please. I've got the laptop there, I think, and I'll show you all the flags. I'll tell you what, you can pick one that you like as the transitional flag or the unity flag.
Wow, that is so
Hey,
superficial.
Ricardo, this happened Monday night. I knew we were coming today. I thought I'd take the opportunity to ask.
No, I'm glad you did, because that question comes out a lot, because there's a lot of misinformation. And frankly, you know what, with all the misinformation, why I don't defend against it, because I don't care. You know why? Because I keep telling
He
everybody,
sees
this
a
is not about
flag
getting
as a
elected, it's
cheap
about saving the
symbol
country.
to
And this is a
gather
75 to 100
supporters
year job we've got
under.
ahead of
I
us.
was going to say it as a symbol of
It's real
unity,
easy.
of value,
So you are
of
one of the good guys,
location,
Ricardo.
region,
So what you
continents,
do is you
shared
trust your
history.
gut.
No, none of that.
What does your gut tell
Pick one you
you?
like.
What does your gut tell you? That's it. Plain and simple.
You wouldn't be here if you didn't believe in it.
Yep. Trust your gut. And and other people will say what they say because people say what they say. And they're entitled to say what they say and they're entitled to believe what they believe. But what do you believe in? What is your gut saying to you? You just go, cool. You believe that? I honour that. That's your belief. It's not my belief. See you later. I don't have time for this. And go and work with people that are on the same energy level as you and putting our positivity in regard to changing this world and saving our kids.
Excellent. Look, folks, we're getting on time-wise. I'd really like to cut it down. We've got 2 people here. I think you've already had a question.
Surely people aren't buying this shit.
Hi Ricardo, Tamara. My name's Maria. I'm from Sydney. Thank you for all the work that you guys do. We have no words to say thank you and we love you. Mine's a yes or no answer. When I started delving into these deep rabbit holes, the horror, I cannot nights I cried.
Me too. Okay?
Just a quick question, a yes or no. Are our dums cleared? Are our kids saved?
My gut feeling is yes.
Thank you, God.
Yes. Just here in Australia.
What's
My
Ricardo
gut
going
feeling.
to respond
Okay,
to
that's
the
my gut feeling.
deep underground military base?
Okay, the last 2 questions.
Oh, he's just going to ignore
Okay, I'm
it.
Toby
Okay.
from South Australia, and my question is for Rick. Just a brief explanation of the Australia One policy of citizen-initiated referenda, how that would be beneficial for us. Very exciting stuff to read about. Just a little bit of a talk about that, if that's all right, briefly.
Yeah, very simple. It's a form of direct democracy. You can't have absolute direct democracy, otherwise nothing ever gets done. But if there's an issue that has, I'm not sure where the bar should be, maybe 30%, 40%. If you get that number of people, it doesn't have to be 51 because that's already agreed. If you get somewhere between 30-40% of people have an issue and they want a referendum on it, they should have the system in place to say we want this referendum. That bar is set, and it's achieved. Then we hold a referendum. It's really simple. You get to say what you want, how you want to do it. Okay.
Hey Ricardo, hey Tamara. This question's for Ricardo. I asked you this question 2 years ago in Bathurst. Hi, I'm Julie from Bathurst, everyone. And
Julie from
I know the answer you gave me then, but I want to ask you again. Are you Q clearance?
No, I'm not Q.
Have you had the call? I know you're not Q itself, but are you part of it? Have you had the call?
A direct call saying, hi, this is Donald Trump and
This
Q,
is-
we want you to work with us?
This
No.
is General Flynn. You want to come and help us? Are you going to be our caretaker?
No, I haven't. But the fact that Flynn rang up and said, we couldn't get in contact and said, let's have a chat, that's a pretty good indication that we might be on the right track. How does that sound?
Yeah.
Hang on.
And also,
Hasn't he got 5 secret
just one more
plans
thing. I'd just like to address your swearing.
involving military?
I was sitting on a train going to Sydney to a rally just after I'd seen your seen your Charlie Ward video. I was
don't
passing
any of them
around
ask him
proudly
about this
saying,
stupid
"This is the
rhetoric?"
man. This is a real man." Laughing, I thought it was great. A lady was sitting in the other seat, and she said, "I just don't like his language." And I said, "Well, would it be better if he wasn't swearing, but he was fucking kids in the corner? Or would you prefer one swearing?" So I'll take the swearer.
I don't think you need to respond.
No words.
Okay, that's it. Question time, folks. Just a quick one. These shirts that I'm wearing, Anne-Marie's wearing, and a few other ladies around the place. I've just been told Tamara has just donated these to Australia One. Oh, the flood victims. I knew I'd get it wrong. The flood victims.
Yep. Sarah,
Okay,
Sarah
all
and
these shirts that you
Sarah and
purchased.
Ricardo and the team has actually requested that the money actually goes to the flood victims.
Yeah, 'cause they were going to give it to
So
A1.
I've got, like I said, I've got family there. We've got their bank account details. So it's not going to a charity, right? It's going into, so the money will actually get to the people.
The right hands.
Absolutely.
In the right hands, yes.
Yeah.
And they are $30 each, going for a perfect cause. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, how about a big hand for Ricardo and Tamara? Okay, we just have a couple of more quick speeches from Bruce wants to get up here again. Yeah, come on, Dan. Yep, where you go? Not Bruce, I'll get you right in a minute. You two look alike. He's picked up on a bit of information he wants to dearly share.
So I had a gentleman come and see me the other day. This mic is terribly low. That's better. I am not that sure. A gentleman came and see me about a week ago, and he made a trip, 1,600k trip, to bring me something. It was this bag. Can anybody see the logo that's on this bag? World Economic Forum, it says. Right? Now, this gentleman said for 17 years he took people out to the wet Sundays, out to Hayman Island for 3 weeks. It was all these guys in here and every dignitary from around the world. They went there for 3 weeks. I've got some info here. 250 plus dignitaries. It's called the ALR, Australian Leadership Retreat. And we all paid for that. We all paid for that. World Economic Forum done. World Economic Forum, Hayman Island, 3 weeks. You were paying for it. 250 dignitaries. He said he doesn't want to get up here and speak because they threatened him at the time with what would happen if he talked about it. Right? Now, that's first-hand information.